Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special Facebook Live today. I'm here with Leslie Gaudet. She is a mindset coach for women. And I had the opportunity to chat with her last week, and I thought she would have a lot to bring to the group and really wanted to have her come in live. So, Leslie, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Wonderful. Can you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, ladies. My name is Leslie Gaudet. As you said, I'm a mindset and emotional awareness coach, actually, but it wouldn't fit on the screen without going off. So, I figured, you know what? Just make it simple. I work with women, and what I do is I help them achieve self awareness around their emotional triggers by helping them to develop mindset skills to help them and help teach them also how to manage their emotions so that protects their time, because when our emotions get the best of us, that will usually derail us and steal our time. I love working with women. It's my mission in life to empower women all over the world to fully love themselves so that they can create those deeper bonds with the people in their lives. And I show them that the only limits that they put on them, that are on them, is the ones that they decide and choose to adopt as their truth, and that they can really have a more fulfilled life and enriched life if they're willing and able to just open their eyes, really to see the truth in front of them, and which is that they are capable, that they are worthy and deserving of so much more, and they can open themselves up to limitless possibilities. And I show them how.
Wonderful. We could all use a lot of that, I'm sure. Um, so first question I have, because I've never, can you just explain or describe what is an emotional trigger? What is a trigger?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of things, especially let's talk externally. A lot of things happen in our lives, in our world, because we have social media. We have the internet, and a lot of news comes to us that's filtered through, whether it's our social feeds through Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of those things. And so you have something that's externally, an event. Example, we're really still going through the pandemic. It's changed into something different, but when it first happened, that's a trigger, right? Because it started this whole roller coaster of things happening. People were uncertain, and that could lead to people feeling that they didn't have control. That took away their control, because you no longer know is what's going to happen, like what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to the people in my life. So that's a trigger. And when you can think back to, especially if something is happening today in your life, and you can look back and say, it started then, that's a trigger for you. And especially if it's an anniversary date. So we were told in March of 2020, our lives were going to be changed, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And typically what will happen is we've got an emotional trigger such as that can keep us, especially if you had to change jobs, if you had to, maybe your job became a remote job, and now you no longer have that community where you would go into work, and you had that community, but you also had that support. No, you no longer had that because you were working from home. So that becomes a different thing for you. And so you'll find that because this event caused so much difference in your world, like it changed your lifestyle, the way you live your life, that becomes a trigger for you. And so as I said, we come back to an anniversary date. We could even go and say 9/11 is an anniversary date. It can bring back all kinds of memories for you, and that can make your day just go derailed, and it has nothing to do with what's happening right now, but it's because it's an anniversary date. So that's what I mean for like an external trigger, something that's reminding you. Now, I'll give you an internal one. This is, say, as an example, and it's usually based on our experiences from when we were younger. So you have an experience around, as a kid, say, for example, and you're in school and you're giving a presentation, and you kind of mess up your words a little bit. You forget, maybe you drop your pencils, maybe you drop your stuff, and your friends, as you think, are laughing. Now, they're just laughing, maybe just because it's humorous to them. They don't realize that it's actually having an emotional impact on you, but you carry it forward years later, and now you have a fear of public speaking because you have that memory. That's a trigger for you, especially if someone asks you, can you give a presentation? If you work in a position where someone's asking you to take the leadership role, and you have that as an emotional trigger to you because it's a memory. And your memory around that is, I mess up. I'm not good enough to do this. And that is, you're just not going to. So these are just a couple of examples, but there's so many because again, we pull from our past and that's where we have most of our experiences that we bring forward.
And so what can we do when we notice that something is triggering us or has triggered us?
So, and that's a great question. And I think a lot of times that people, when they get triggered, we're living in such a fast-paced world. Sometimes it's really super hard to actually stop yourself. It's really about becoming more mindful of these things happening. Like you notice when something happens and you respond a certain way and you're not really happy with it and you have to go back and fix it. So if you can start maybe becoming more mindful around that, oh, okay, I wasn't such a great person. I didn't respond the way I wanted to. This seems to be a pattern for me around, someone asking me to step up, take a leadership role, to maybe lead a team. This is something now I got to take a deeper dive to like look at why, because if that, obviously I had an experience, but a lot of times what happens as we're going through life, things get in life happens. We tend to like forget, but we don't realize that those past experiences are really influencing us because they've become part of us. And we've allowed that to come forward. So one is really recognizing, number one is recognizing it's happening. And number two is really starting to become more mindful around how you respond to, especially if this is a pattern for you. The third thing is don't make it wrong. I think a lot of the time that people make things wrong and they beat themselves up over and over for it. We, in fact, will probably take ourselves down that shame, that trail of shame longer than anyone else will do. But it's because we feel so bad. The fourth thing is, does this actually have to be my truth? So as an example, public speaking. Yeah, that happened as a kid. But does that mean that's who you are today? Not necessarily. So looking at it from a perspective, if somebody did ask you to step up into a role to do something like this, they obviously see that you have qualities that they wouldn't have come to you in the first place if they didn't believe in you. So does it have to be your truth? No. But you can allow yourself to say, okay, how can I find supporting evidence? Well, there's other people out there that have done this successfully. They are leading successfully. How can I tap into someone else who's already doing this? The second thing is, obviously I have skills because my boss came to me and asked me to step into this role. So now you can start finding supportive evidence to support you as you move forward. Yeah, it's going to take a little work stepping through that fear, because fear has a way of like doubling down, but it does take time. It will become stronger, your muscle around that, when you start like just saying, okay, this is my patterns. Now let's see how I can start shifting my patterns to more supportive, empowering, rather than limiting and keeping me down.
Awesome. I love what you said there about like, don't make it wrong. Because that was something that I had to work on. I really had to work hard on. And that's that I would tell myself there was something wrong with how I responded or something I said, almost taking on responsibility, or really taking on responsibility for how other people reacted to me or how other people received what I had put out. And then as a result, I would kind of filter myself, almost water myself down, because I would be like, I didn't know. I made myself a mind reader and I thought, oh, they didn't like it because I saw the way their face looked. And so I would water myself down. And then once I learned that just because it's not well received doesn't make it wrong, or just because people have a different opinion doesn't make me wrong, or doesn't make my statement wrong. Once I accepted, I am allowed to hold my truth and they're allowed to hold theirs, I was able to be more authentic in how it was showing up, and let go of that fear of judgment. Because, part of it was that I kept, if somebody didn't like raise me up for my statement, I must be wrong. right? And,
Yeah.
it's like Shakespeare said, nothing is good or nothing is right or wrong, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah. And I think too is that a lot of people, like you were saying, you're putting the words or the thoughts in someone else without actually opening up a conversation, because maybe there is room for a conversation to really get a better understanding, but it's also learning to listen. And I think partly the reason why I think we make it wrong is a lot of the time where we are approaching these experiences from a wounded self, because we've dealt with a lot of baggage that we're carrying a lot of baggage that we haven't really dealt with. Again, I believe, and I've talked to people that I've worked with, that it's not our baggage, it's not our responsibility to carry the baggage with us. It's our responsibility just to look at it and to switch our mindset around something and change its truth and its power and its impact on our lives to something more empowering that we can actually change. Because I truly believe we're the authors of our story, and we have the power within us to change our story, rewrite it. Nothing is set in stone, and we're going to continuously, as we're journeying through life, we're going to be rewriting our stories every single day, every single moment.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. When I actually took a look at some of the stories I was telling, um, I really looked at, what are common things I bring up when I'm talking to my girlfriends on a night out, or what do we dive into? And I looked at some of them and I was like, why do I keep telling that story when it doesn't make me feel good? It's a negative memory. And every time I tell it, I'm reinforcing it to myself that I'm a victim, I'm this, I'm that. And I actually went through the process of, examining them all and separating out, like emptying out your purse, right? We all empty out our purses once in a while and go, oh God, why do I have this in here? Like, why do I have half-eaten gum and stuff? But it's the same thing. I had to go through and look at my stories and be like, this no longer serves me. I'm not going to tell that one anymore. And we do get that choice. We get to choose to let it go. But it does take work. And now, can you just tell the ladies that are watching here, because I know when before I started doing all the work, I did not believe that I could change the way other people had. I said, oh, that's nice for them, but I can't. I've got too much. I'm too wounded, I'm too damaged, I'm too broken. Can you kind of enlighten everybody a little bit on how you take people through the journey, or how it can happen for anyone? Like, that it is possible for everyone?
Absolutely. And it is possible for everyone. I think a lot of it comes down to the worth scale. I call it the value scale. A lot of people are judging their worth based on whether it's someone else validating it for them, based on what they're doing for that person, based on how good it is, and based on their feedback. Or it's the value scale on experiences in life where they tried to go after a goal, didn't quite meet the mark, or they failed at it. And so that made them feel like they were failures. So they immediately reverted to that their value is only so much. So when you see a lot of people, especially on social media, and you're looking and you're going, well, I want to do what they're doing. But then you immediately think, well, I'm here and they're here. Like, they're way better. They have this great presence, and I can't do that. How I typically work is, it does begin with mindset work, because I truly believe that the way we think is really so powerful. In fact, we don't even realize it, that although we consciously think we're in control of our thoughts, consciously we have a lot of thoughts. Our subconscious mind, based on, especially on our experiences that have been doubling down and doubling down for our entire lives up until this point, what's ending up happening is that those thoughts, whether you're thinking them or not, they're still there. And even though you think that you are in control of what you're doing, a lot of the time it's the subconscious that is triggered when something happens to you. So what I do is I like to take my clients back through a journey of getting to know who they are. So getting to know who you were, your life, how you grew up, who you grew up with, where you were born, how how you were raised, your experiences, going back and tapping into the past. I think a lot of the times, I said, we tend to like put it under the rug. We forget about it and we think, oh, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50. I've been there, done that. But what really, I think a lot of people don't realize is that unless you've really faced it, and you've actually named that thing that keeps happening to you, and then fully getting into it, facing it head on, embracing that it was a part of you, and then finding a way to switch how it's impacting you and change the way you think, so that you can start changing your dynamic and your story, so that you can then finally release it. I truly believe releasing it doesn't mean that it's not still a part of yourself, but it's no longer going to hold power. And so I take my clients through this journey. It begins with getting to know who they are, so they know who they are. And then they can start looking at those things that have kept them hostage, learning to release things, learning to forgive themselves. Again, we don't really embrace the forgiveness piece to ourselves. We don't usually and extend grace to ourselves that easily. We'll do it for others, but when it comes to ourselves, we're so hard on ourselves. We feel like we have to be holding ourselves to a higher standard that makes it almost possible for us to believe that we are worthy and deserving to do more. And so it starts there. Part of it also is learning to love yourself. Some of those things we have to go back and look at. The baggage that we carry is holding us back from actually giving ourselves love. So when that happens, what we're in essence saying is that we're not lovable, we're not worthy of love. And we'll find ourselves, when we are in relationships, we approach our conversations, our encounters, our experiences with the wounded self, instead of being able to be fully whole and say, you know what, that was then. This isn't me anymore. I want to be fully in control of who I am as a woman, loving myself wholly without conditions, looking at my reflection and being completely okay and accepting and loving and forgiving and extending that grace to that woman who is worthy and deserving, and be able to then approach every interaction, every relationship from this place of, I'm empowered. I'm no longer that wounded person. So I can listen when we have a conversation to my husband and really listen and hear him, so I get his perspective before I respond. And I'm not coming from the wounded self, so that all I am is responding emotionally, and then he's shutting down. Rather, I'm responding, from my empowered self. I call her the inner hero, so that my husband hears me. He listens, he hears me, and he can respond, knowing that I'm not that wounded person anymore. So that's a lot. It takes a lot to really be able to do that, by deciding. It really just comes down to this decision that I'm worthy and deserving. And we all are, because we're here. We were all born, which makes us 100% worthy. We're worthy. Being a human, we are worthy. It's just going out and being able to embrace that your life is your life. You're writing your story. And if this is what you want to do with your life, then you can. But you don't have to let that baggage from past experiences haunt you or impact you or influence you. You can change that.
Amazing. Love it. So for all of the ladies here, I mean, where can they find you and connect with you if they, are feeling called to, step into that next level and embrace fully loving themselves?
Yeah, so there's you can find me on Facebook. This is my place. I love Facebook. So you can just DM me directly. You can see that my name is spelled out. That's how I show up on social media everywhere. That's my name. You can also find me in my Facebook group, which is We Are Better Together, a community for women. That group is about embracing women and coming from a place of supporting community, to uplifting, encouraging, and inspiring each other. So that's really where you can find me. The fastest. It's my home. I love it.
Awesome. And we will drop the links to connect to those two in the comments below the live once we wrap up here. So Leslie, is there any parting words of wisdom, any advice you'd like to leave with our audience before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I think is, if you could look at your life as this blank slate starting today, and what would you like that your life to look like moving forward, is who do you want to be? That person that you want to be. She's there. I just want you to know that woman is there, and she's just dying to be set free, to start living her life. I would really encourage you to start looking at your community of women that you have in your life, your circle, your inner circle, and start, leaning on them for support and doing the same. Secondly, is if you want more for your life, you can. But if you don't love yourself fully, you might find yourself holding yourself back. And I don't want you to do that. So recognize that, maybe you are in that place where you don't love yourself fully, and maybe you need to start taking a closer look at the reason why, and be okay. It's okay. Like I said, don't make it wrong. We all have a past. We all do. And we all will continually have a past, and we all have those moments where life doesn't go as planned. But it's okay. I just want you to know that. And if you are looking to perhaps look for ways to move through that, I can help you with that. So reach out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for making time to be here today. And thank you for sharing all of this with our group.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day.